Good morning, Charleston, and welcome to another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. Thanks for joining me this morning as we talk about real estate here in the Low Country. If this is your first time tuning into this program, we talk about housing on this program. Now, I've been selling real estate for 18 years now. I've done about 1,400 transactions here locally in the Charleston market, and I bring my experience to you, the consumer, so that you understand what's happening in the world of real estate. Well, you understand if you're thinking of buying, selling, investing, having a home managed, maybe even thinking about getting into the industry to sell real estate. This is the show to tune into. So thanks for joining me this morning. We've got a lot to cover today. Of course, we're going to talk about the state of the market like we always do. I want to talk about some opportunities to make some money in real estate. You know, a lot of real estate investors out there are kind of bored. They're going after deals, but they're really tough to find. The margins are shrinking. And so I want to give you some advice. If you're thinking of investing in real estate, if you've got some extra cash that you want to put into the market and you're just not sure what to do with it, I'm going to give you a few things to think about. We're going to talk about selling a home. I want to talk about new construction and a few other things along the way. So, if at any point in time you think, hey, this is someone that I'd like to talk to off air. I have a question about real estate. Maybe I need a referral for a contractor, or I just need some help. Or, of course, you're thinking of buying, selling, or investing in real estate, or you have a home that you'd like to have managed. Then I invite you to give me a call. My number, which you can call or text, is 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065. Or you can check us out online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. A lot of great information on that website, and we're actually updating it. It'll have a new look here in the next few days, actually, adding a few more features. You can go on there and you can find out, of course, how much your home is worth. You can search the MLS. You can find out how many buyers we have for your home right now. And then, of course, you can access our blog. You can look at our videos on YouTube. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, all that great stuff. So let's get into it. Let's first talk about the market, right? Everybody's always curious about the market. That's probably the most common question we get as real estate agents is, how's the market? And a lot of agents answer that, I think, in a few different ways. They could answer that in terms of how their individual business is going, which is what they typically do, right? They're giving their insight into how their business is doing in comparison to some other point in the past. Of course, you as the consumer should probably be a little more clear in terms of what you want out of that question. You could just be asking the agent, like, hey, how's business for you? It could be, hey, how's the market? Is now the right time to consider selling my house? Is it still a good time to buy a house? Should I be looking at investment properties? Are there some opportunities there? Well, I'll just tell you that, and it shouldn't come as much of a surprise, the market's pretty slow right now. Right? We're starting to see inventory creep up a little bit. The motivation to sell a house right now among the resale market is just low. It's slow. A lot of people have great interest rates on their mortgages. If you really think about what happened during COVID, right? Those few years after COVID, really up until the end of 2021, parts of 2022. Here's really what happened, and this is what I don't hear a lot of people talking about. What we ended up doing as just a market overall, as a national market, which benefited us in Charleston greatly, was we basically borrowed a bunch of transactions from the future. And what I mean by that is that there were some people that probably had within their 5-year plan to move, right? They knew that at some point in the next few years they were going to move. But then interest rates hit 3%. Some of them were below 3%. And a lot of people were like, well, why would we not move right now? We've got this equity in our home that we've built up. We can take that as a down payment and basically buy a home that's more expensive, bigger, better, and have the same, maybe even less of a monthly payment. You add to that, of course, the fact that people could now work from anywhere because of this whole stay at home and work from home movement. And then you add to that the fact that Charleston, South Carolina, and just the Southeast in general is if you put a marble on the map of the United States, it's going to roll toward the Southeast. That's just the migration pattern of people that have moved over the past few years, whether they're moving from the West Coast for a variety of reasons, whether they're moving from the Northeast because they no longer have to, commute an hour plus to work. I mean, my sister still commutes probably about an hour and a half to and then back from work every day. And it's getting old for her. So she's considering moving to Charleston. But you had a bunch of people that just decided all at once to move because financially it made sense. Well, now they're sitting pretty. They've got a 3-ish% interest rate. And the idea of now selling their home, even though they've got a bunch of equity in their house, right? Even though their transaction a few years ago has resulted in a bunch of equity for them, they just can't make sense out of the payment. And people shop for real estate and make life-based decisions on payment, right, as a percentage of their budget. And we went into this in great detail on our last show where we talked about the affordability crisis that we have in real estate, which is really perpetuating this issue. And so you've got a lot of folks that are just deciding to stay put for now. You've got the Fed that, although they decided not to raise rates this time, have basically said, hey, we're gonna do it this year. We've got some time left. We're gonna bump up those rates again. I fully anticipate that being the case. So rates are gonna be in that 7.5%, maybe 8% range for the end of the year. And then they went on to say that this tapering off that they're going to do, this reduction in rates that it will happen at some point, is going to be slower than maybe they originally anticipated. They're going to kick that can down the road a little bit. And so people are stuck to an extent. Now, what's benefited greatly from what's been happening, not just locally, regionally, nationally, it is builders, right? People that were, builders have been behind the 8 ball. They have not been building as many homes as they need to when you look at historical averages. So there's been a shortage of new construction for a long time, really since the market crashed in 2008. They really took a big hit starting in 2009, 2010, 2011. There just wasn't a lot of new construction inventory. Well, now we're starting to see the transactional volume be more heavily weighted in favor of new construction. Almost 1 in 4 transactions now is new construction. You look at this time last year and it was 1 in 5. You look a little bit before that, it was 1 in 6. So new construction is, they're humming right now. There's a lot of people buying new construction, which makes it even tougher for people that have decided to sell to compete. And the thing that makes it really hard for people to compete against new construction right now is the fact that a lot of these builders own their own mortgage companies. So they can essentially finagle the rate to make buying a new construction home a lot more attractive. So if, let's just say rates are 7%, a lot of these builders that own their own mortgage companies can give you a fixed 30-year rate for like 5.75%. That makes it a lot more attractive to buy new construction than it does to buy a resale. So these homeowners in areas that are competing with new construction are really feeling it right now. And that frankly has shifted fairly heavily over the course of, I'd say, the past 30 to 45 days. And I think for those of you that are listening, that's one of the benefits of listening to the show is that you're getting real-time data. I have sold a lot of real estate and will continue to sell a lot of real estate. And I share those experiences with you as someone with a very close ear to the ground so that you are an informed consumer. So I want to talk about new construction. I think a lot of folks just go to new construction communities. They talk to the agent for that builder, the site agent. Maybe they make an offer. Maybe they decide to buy a home. You're now working with an agent that's communicative, right? They're doing a good job, but make no mistake about it, their allegiance is to the builder. So I want to talk about why it's important to hire an agent when you're buying a new construction home. First of all, it doesn't cost you anything, right? Our commission is paid by the builder. And if we're not going to get it, then the site agent's going to get it. So either way, you're not saving any money, which I think is a misconception. I think people, we get calls all the time saying, hey, I want to talk directly to the listing agent, because that buyer believes that if they work directly with the listing agent, they'll be able to reduce the commission that the seller will have to pay which will then be a pass-through savings to the buyer when they make an offer. Sometimes that can work. Most of the time, it won't work. And on top of that, you're now left dealing with an agent that has split allegiance between the buyer and the seller in something called dual agency. And dual agency very simply states that you cannot represent one party's best interests over the other. In other words, I can't tell a buyer how low a seller is willing to go on their price, just like I can't tell a seller how much the buyer could afford if it's more than what they're willing to pay, right? We can't use conflicting information. We can't pin parties against each other. So when you go into a new construction community and you're working with the site agent, you are not getting the same level of representation because it's literally impossible based on license law that you would get if you had your own agent, which costs you nothing. So I want to talk about some of the benefits to working with an agent when buying new construction. And we're going to do that when we come back. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. And remember, if you want to reach out to me, you've got some questions, you're thinking of buying, selling, investing in real estate, maybe you have a home you'd like for us to manage, my number, which you can call or text, is 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065. Or check us out online, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or you can send me an email. My email address is Brian, that's Brian with an I, at brianbeattyteam.com. Stick around, folks, for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show right here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Visit Brian Beatty's website at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.